Start off, talk about my car, talk about how I got it ready, how I found it, and then the various events that I went through. And starting with the regional here, and then going through the national last year in Greenville. So if anybody has any questions or comments along the way, interrupt me, and happy to answer them. So what do I have? It's a 72 convertible. It's a late VIN. It's about 400 cars from the end, and pretty much totally original. 31,000 miles. Base motor, 4-speed, tilt wheel, telescopic, power brakes, AM/FM stereo, and a vinyl hardtop. So not super high options. Like I said, it's a late car. It was built in July of '72. Was delivered later in July of '72, and it's always been a Michigan car. It started out in Chelsea, Jackson, and then most recently was in Lansing, Grand Rapids area until I found it. So all the paperwork is stuck with it since new. Tank sticker, shipper, protective plate, all the original titles. I've got a canceled check from the financing when we bought it. So tons of paperwork with it. How I found it. So this goes back to Carlisle, 2017. I got there early. I was shopping for a car. I had another 72 that I'd sold about a year before, actually at Carlisle the year before, and saw this car pull in, and it was just barely, unsuspiciously just sitting there, and very quietly had 30,000 miles written on the windshield. It had a poorly photocopied Bloomington Survivor Award from 1992 or 91 in the windshield, and it was way overpriced. So I talked to the owners throughout the weekend, or the guy who was representing the owner, and never made him an offer. It was just way overpriced, but it looked like a nice car. But oddly enough, it was in Grand Rapids. So we exchanged information, and about every week to 10 days, he'd send me a text, still interested, what do you want to do? I'm like, yeah, still interested. So I was off work in September for a little bit. I had a knee surgery. Contacted me again, hey, you want to come up and look at it again? I said, sure, why not? So went up to Grand Rapids, looked at it again, drove it again, and they had come down in price, but still, I made them an offer. I knew it wasn't going to get accepted, so just went back home. But the pattern continued. Every 7 to 10 days later, I'd get a call or a text. How about this? How about this? No, I'm good. And so finally in October, we came to a deal, and I brought it home. So that's how I got it. And when I bought it, to me it looked like it was a benchmark bow tie candidate car, and you never really know until you start digging into them. So that was kind of where my goal was as I went to get through it. So so first thing I did was I went out, and at that time it was the 5th edition judging guide for early C3s, and I know the 6th is out now, so a lot of the information I'll show here is in reference to the 5th, but the 6th may correct some of that. But so basically the real high level way to get it ready is, first thing I did, bought the guide, like I said, download the judging sheets, and that is essentially almost everything you need to get your car ready. So it gives you the answer key with the judging guide, and you've got the test with the judging seats that you can get. So, and there's tons of other resources too, and several people in this room helped me out over the course of getting it ready. The technical discussion board online is great. There's plenty of resources out there. So what I did, I went through the car first, judged it myself, took a couple days off work, just went through it, made a list, and then start knocking off the list. So with an unrestored car, you've got a little bit of a conundrum, because do you want to restore the part to new, or do you want to preserve it and leave it as is? So for the most part, you know, if you're going to go for the bow tie award, benchmark award, you got to figure out how to fix it and leave it as untouched as you can. So and then focusing on points per dollar spent. So if you're going to spend $600 on an air filter that I think gets you 4 points, it's probably not the best deal to go. So and then once you attack all your changes, go ahead and rejudge it and give yourself an idea of where you're at. So when I went through the car the first time, I think I came out at like 93.5, somewhere around there, so I know it's pretty close, top flight already. And when I judge it myself, I try to, you know, be a little bit more heavy-handed than a typical judge would. So if I think a judge is going to take a point or two, I may take 2 or 3, just to give myself a little bit of error to account for there. So, and then basically once you make other changes, go through, rejudge it again, and give yourself a rough idea. Right before the regional, I went through it again when I was done, and I gave myself, I think it was about a 96.5, something like that. So I figured I was pretty comfortable going into the regional. So again, just a couple of photos up there. It's just my list I had put together, and kind of just, you know, start knocking them off the list and go through and get ready. So I'm not going to get terrible into amount of detail about the how I fixed it, but I'll kind of show you some of the interesting things that I found along the way. And the unrestored cars are always kind of cool, because you see a lot of a lot of history and things that, you know, we kind of see and talk about in the judging guides, but always don't really see them up close. So, so a couple of things. The 24, that's handwritten in chalk underneath the right front. It's pretty much right upside down on the right front fender on the inside. And then the bell housing, I can't figure out if it's a 78 or a 7B or whatever is up in there on the back of the bell housing too. So the first thing I found in the car was this conduit running up behind the headlights, and I'll show that in a minute here. The transmission has got an extra stamp on it. My engine stamp band has actually been hit twice, which is kind of neat. Master cylinder stamps on the late cars. They didn't get the PG, or I forget the other codes, but that wasn't on there. The horn relay has got an interesting color to it. It's got a Carter carburetor, and I had 3 out of 4 T3 headlights. No, I had 4 T3 headlights, 3 of them that worked. So, so the first thing I found on the car as going through it was this conduit, point to it, running right along back in here, underneath the hood. It's not cut out in the judging guide. So basically what it says, vacuum hoses and wiring should be neatly run and tucked up against the front header. Well, they are. Mine's in there. So doing a little bit of homework with it and looking around now, this looks to be a late change. I've seen it on one other car. Gary Bosselman's car is 100 cars earlier than mine. He's got it on his. So it looks to be a late change. I looked at, there was a 14,000 mile, I think 73 in Greenville this year. It had it on there too. So it looks like it was a late 72 thing. Transmission stamps. So this looks to be a late thing also. Generally the 4-speeds have the little aluminum tab up here on the left hand side, and it doesn't really show up, and mine's not stamped very well, but it gives you this code up here for the WD. Looks like the later cars also had it down here, and this one actually looks like they hit it twice because it looks like a B instead of a D. And that's again just below on the main.
That's not a part number, but a code number? Right on the tag?
Yeah, that's part number.
Okay.
With the suffix code. And then, yeah, so WD was M20, and I think WK was M21, something like that. But each transmission type had a different code for it.
Could you buy an M22 that year?
72, yes. I think you could for ZR1. So stamp pad, so this is kind of neat. You know, we talk about restamps and stamped poorly, and some people tell you they're all stamped the same. This one you can clearly see when they stamped it the first time, it's nice and thick over here. It's lighter over here, so they flubbed it. So what do you do? Just hit it again and put it on top of the date code. So, and this is, you know, we're pretty confident, you know, this is a real thing. No one's faking base motor 72 cars out there, so so pretty confident that's not a restamp. So master cylinder. So my original master cylinder was long gone, and the one that was in it was old and corroded, so it was really not good for flight. It was just a service replacement. It wasn't even. It was probably like an AutoZone special, so it wasn't really good for flight. It wasn't going to do well for conditions, so I decided to replace mine. So I went ahead and I started looking at it, and then there's a note in the judging guide that talks about the very late cars not having the stamp on the there's a little thumbnail area in front that got machined and they put a stamp on it. So I wasn't aware of this, that the last 1,000 cars or so didn't have that. So I started looking around for where to find them, and you can't. So I went to, this was Corvette stainless steel brake, and you know, they give you their 100% correct master cylinder up here. This is what you get. You go to that part for 72 power brakes, and you get this description here, which is great, and then it says for 72 late cars, go get that part number. Well, that's this one. You go here and it tells you it's 100% correct, but you look, it doesn't have the machine surface on it, so the configuration is still wrong. So I called them up and I asked them, I said, well, hey, can you make me the other part number just without a stamp on it? And they said, yeah, no problem. I had to wait like an extra 2 weeks until they made a batch or did whatever, but they actually made me a batch without it, so I've got one now without a stamp on it. So horn relay color. Judging guide says a few apparently original 72 relays have been seen with a white plastic base and a metal mounting bracket spot welded to the cover. Range of application is unknown at this time. Well, there's a real late 72 with one, so another data point that we have to add to that. Carburetor, I just assumed all Quadrajets were Rochesters, but they're not. So some Rochester carburetors were manufactured by Carter for GM and are so identified. These are especially common on 1972 base motor cars. Well, that's what I've got. And, oops. Right there, manufactured by Carter Carburetor for GMC. So mine's got, there's another flange with the date code on it, but it's got a F2 for June of 72.
Do you know where Carter was doing that?
I don't.
In the little pill factory.
Yeah.
So, headlights.
Where was the Carter factory?
So anyways, so headlights, when I found the car, it had 4 original T3 headlights still in it. 3 of the 4 worked. Luckily from a previous 72, I had a headlight in stock in my basement, so I replaced that. And this is a 1-year only style, so the electric limited sets you can buy, I think for 70 to 71, cover that span, but they don't cover the actually 72. I think they advertise it for 72, but it's not actually applicable to 72. So I was able to replace the one. Funny headlight story here as I'm getting it ready for the regional. I'm going through, I think we had to get them down to Dearborn on a Wednesday. I'm going through the car Sunday night, just double checking everything. My dad's helping me do ops. I pulled the button for headlights. Oh, your light bulb burned out. No, it didn't. So 2 days before the regional, I've got a headlight doesn't work. So was able to get a hold of Mr. Saltz over here and track down a headlight and put one in the day before and drove it down.
Awesome.
So I'll start to get into some of the shows now. And as I started going through it, I realized a lot of people have asked, what's the difference between, Bloomington, NCRS, MCACN, what does everybody do and how is it different? So, so I threw this together and kind of walked through it. Basically, everybody's going the same place with just a little different route to get there. So, I think everybody's familiar with our system, our 5 teams of 2. They'll come through at various times of the day. We're judging on originality and condition. Your deductions, we've got our judging guide that standardizes some items for us. Those that aren't, you can get your 1, 2, 3, 4 point deductions based on your level of deviation. So 4,500 points without our extra credit, 94% gets you a top flight. And then time is as much as they need to get it done, but typically it's 45 to 60 minutes from an area. It might be 30 on a good day, it might be a little longer on a slower day. So Bloomington, again, it's very similar. It's 1 person per area, and then they all go through the car at the same time. And again, it's originality and condition, sorry. And the points are a little bit different. You start off with around 8,000 points, but you lose them in 5, 10, and 15 point increments. So you get more points, but you lose them faster. And you need 95% to get a gold. And the big difference there is they give a actual time to start the car. And I think, is it 34 minutes, Pat? Is that 37? Something like that? So they have an actual target time to get through each car. So, and the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals or MCACN, it's kind of their judging is kind of a blend of the two. So everybody comes around at one time pretty much. It's 1,000 points, but you lose 1 or 2 at a time. So in that case, you get 95% to get the Concourse Gold, or if you've got a top flight in the Bloomington Gold, you get the Triple Diamond Award. So, and again, they spend about 30 to 45 minutes per area. The MCACN judging is by far the most laid back of all of them. I think it's because they figure you've been through the ringer twice already, and they already know the car, and they already know basically what to expect. So, so a little bit more laid back on that one. And then bow tie, what we talked about last time. It's 4 teams of 2 judges. It's originality only. It passes or it fails. And then there's no operations. Total points, don't know. Don't get to see your judging sheets. I never saw mine for bow tie. I've actually found out through the grapevine if I got my award, so I never even saw. So they're kind of a secret. You can't download them. It's all in the interest of preserving originality to the car. So again, then the requirements, there's your 80% for mechanical and chassis, 85% for interior and exterior, and then again, take about as much time as they need. So for when I went through it in Greenville, it was about 45 minutes. I think interior is about 30 minutes, but and the chassis guys were probably close to an hour by the time we moved it over and pushed it back and did all that stuff.
You can get a bow tie award if your car doesn't start.
Technically, yeah. Yeah, so, all right, so first time out. So this is 2018. Goals for that weekend were top flight award and a bow tie sign off. So the weekend was successful. Not a lot of real big surprises. on my end. I had kind of done my homework and pretty much knew what I was going in. A couple of things I was going to mention here. My washer system, couldn't get it to work. I finally gave up. I basically just ran out of time trying to get it to work. I take a business trip about once or twice a year, and of course about 3 weeks before the regional, Steve gets called to Texas, and just ran short on time, and I figured, all right, I know I had enough points in the bag, I'll let that one go this time through. So never got that one to work. The other thing I always tell everybody is when you're having a car judged, you're more than likely going to have a judging day surprise. So something you weren't expecting to go wrong, not on your radar, probably going to go wrong. So several years ago I had another 72 I had judged. Never had a problem with my glove box key, ever, in the 10 years I had the car. As soon as it's time to show the operations judge how to move it, didn't work. So, same way with this car. Pull into the operations area, they're checking the light functionality. Judge says, your right rear parking light's not working. What are you talking about? So sure enough, I get out of the car, I look up, it's dead. So, reach up under there next to the hot muffler because it's running, jiggle around a little bit, it comes back on. So. Take your surprise and just roll with it. It's probably going to happen. So that was at the regional, and final score was a 96 on that one with the driving points down there. So Bloomington, I did something a little bit different. I brought my own judging crew with me and my prep crew. So they assisted, and so this was Survivor Day at Bloomington, and this is like our bow tie. And so they're going through looking strictly at originality, what's been changed on the car, what's not original to the car. And they break their Survivor Award down into gold, silver, and bronze, like our 2-star, 3-star, 4-star. And so basically if you get 80% or more in all 4 categories, you get the Survivor Gold Award, and 50% or more is a Survivor Silver, and then you need a Survivor Silver or Gold to get their benchmark award if you get Gold certification. So my goal was to get a Survivor Gold. Came up a little bit short in that, and chassis is what held me back, and I kind of knew it would. It's been a Michigan car for 40-some years, so we all know what Michigan chassis look like after 40-some years. So there was some rattle can restoration that had been done under there, and I knew there was some that I had missed and everything, so I thought the 68.75 was a little harsh on it, but even going back and looking at it, had I judged it myself and changed a couple of numbers, I would have been right on that edge of 80% anyway, so it could have gone either way.
Who's that guy in the white shorts?
Yeah.
This gentleman, he shows up at a lot of car shows.
Are they,
He's judged your car a lot.
He has, he's seen it, he probably more than I have.
are they more or less concerned about condition than the top flight?
For Survivor, it's really not a matter of condition, it's just originality. It's like a bow tie.
Okay.
And it's also answer that same question. Is it still historically significant? You know, is it a benefit to the hobby to leave it alone, basically?
So then in that case, your chassis came in low condition, not originality. So it's,
No, this is strictly originality. So
it was changed yet, non-stop shock or something.
it was basically the rattle can stuff that had been done underneath there. So
Oh, yeah.
so washers that were supposed to be natural were black. Fuel lines had paint on them at that time. So, and I had gone through and attempted to rectify that, not well enough, obviously. But again, yes, just purely originality.
But if Michigan Rust takes the coating off, would you still fail?
No, not in that sense, because it's still the original part of the car, as long as you,
It's
haven't,
original
as long as
part.
you haven't attempted to replace it.
Okay.
And there's still some originality there to reference, is
Even though
the
the
key.
coating is all gone.
Yeah, you'd have to know.
What happens is this, is you'll lose your points on, I mean, you'll get it on is this original, first question. The answer is yes. The next question that Bloomington has, just like our bow tie does, is this area good enough to be used for historical reference, and are at least 50% of the finishes there? Well, the problem with our Michigan cars is good luck on that 50%. Okay, so that's where a car like his or mine or some of the others have problems, because you're going to get a fair of a time hitting that 50% as far as how much of your finish is still present. Okay, so to answer your question, you lose your finish because you live in Michigan. Yeah, you could fail the end vote, so to speak, whether you're looking at Bloomington or NCRS. However, I mean, even NCRS shows in their judging reference manual that at least for chassis, for a fair amount, you're supposed to ignore the loss of finishes from Michigan cars, so to speak, because there's still a lot you can learn from these cars, even if not every single finish is still present. So Bloomington added that box, if you will, not too many years ago. And I think cars that would have been a survivor, so to speak, before probably are not, because they lose that vote on occasion. So anyway, a little bit of background.
So that was Survivor Day at Bloomington. So, and I'm doing this backwards for those of you that know the Bloomington sequence of events. This is actually flip-flop day to day. But so certification, this would be their equivalent of our flight judging. So they're looking for the same thing, originality and condition. And my goal for the weekend was to take home a benchmark award with the car. So 95% in certification, which translates in their scale to 411 points or less lost. So again, went through the scores there. Was very fortunate, did very well, and 95.5 was my total points lost. So, funny story here, going back to the washers, the window washer. I did finally get them to work. We left for Bloomington on a Wednesday, about 10 o'clock Tuesday night. I got them to work. Dragged my wife out of the house and said, "Come watch these things work." So after I'd worked on them for like 2 weeks straight, trying to get them to function, got them to work. It was great. Go through operations. We're going right down the list. The operations judge, who may have just spoken a moment ago, I said, "Watch this." He tells me hit the washer button. I check this out. Push the button. There go the wipers. Nothing else. Not a thing.
Murphy's Law.
Yep. So again, back to the judging day surprise thing. I thought I had it fixed. I didn't. And actually, I haven't hit the button since. I don't know if they work now or not. I have no idea. So that's Bloomington Gold. The MCACN show. So again, I brought my team. I converted them over to the detailing team this time. So again, like I said, it's much more laid back judging, and it's the combination of NCRS and Bloomington, where you've got the teams coming through all at once, but the deductions are 1 to 2 points, and they tend to be pretty lenient. Was kind of my thought based on the scores that I got. I mean, I got 97.5. Considerably higher than they've had in the past, and the chassis guys took off 3 points, which was pretty much a gift because it's an old rusty Michigan chassis. There's some deductions there for for condition. So with that show, Concourse Gold and Triple Diamonds were the awards there, and then back to Bloomington Gold. I was invited to their gold collection last year, so there's no judging here. But this is always, they have a theme every year, for those of you that are familiar with it, they have a theme every year, and this year was the Sharks. And so I submitted my car, got selected to bring it down. And so nothing very intense about it, but the cool part was getting to take our cars out on the track after the show was wrapping up on Saturday. So seeing all these old, cooled, high-end, unrestored and LED8s and stuff driving around the track was pretty cool. Patrick was right behind me.
What was the speed limitation on the track?
It was about 60 we got up to.
Really?
It wasn't super fast, yeah.
Okay.
And that was by the third lap too. The first lap was everybody slowly getting out. And some of these guys were out on original tires, and so they were obviously a little nervous about being out there.
I did see, I was there, I did see a guy pass the pace car and accelerate, and they had a real police car coming down together.
They throw them out?
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, there was a black Dodge Charger at the end of the backstretch, checking speeds on everybody. So back to so last year, this is down in Greenville. So again, I got my team of bow tie judges helping me out down there. And so we talked about bow tie last time, so I'm not going to go into too much of the details on it. But basically, they go through those no operations. It's a very different experience than the flight judging experience. Again, because you don't generally get to see your judging sheets. They're not generally reviewed with you. And so, typically when you're going through your judging sheets, you can kind of look over the shoulder and kind of add up in your head and know roughly where your score is at. You don't really know with bow tie. So, and it's odd too, because the judges will usually, if you're going through flight, yep, thanks for bringing your car out, and let's kind of move on to the next ones. With this one, it was kind of, you look over and they're doing the next car already. I guess we're done.
What's the rationale for that they don't share the score?
Preserve the originality of the car. So like with flight, we get our judging sheets back, and we say, oh, okay, my air filter was wrong, so I'll go replace that and put in a new one. So if you do that with like a bow tie car, or you want to preserve the originality to use it as a teaching tool, well now you've, what a air filter's not probably a good example, but if you change something else, it's no longer the original. It's not really a good teaching tool anymore. So it's all the intent is originality. So yeah, so that was the. So I was fortunate enough. I got the 4-star bow tie award with the car, and a month or so after the convention, I just emailed Dave Brigham, so I was just curious, and I had seen the conversation before if NCR publishes statistics about how many of what awards have been given out and everything. So I had emailed him and asked him that question because I couldn't remember what the answer was. I couldn't find it online. And he emailed me back that NCRS doesn't keep nor publish those statistics. So oddly enough, 2 days later, a thread shows up on the technical discussion board, and I think John Wagner was the guy's name. He published a list of Duntoff, bow tie, cross flags award winners for every eligible year of judging, and it went right through, and he had quantities and all that. So I emailed him offline to get a little bit more information, and so there's been 72 cars get 4-star bow tie, which oddly enough was the highest of all the model years that qualify for a bow tie or cross flag. Everything else was less than that. And then my car is one of 8 base motor convertibles is what he was able to pull out from that. So that's been it. That's my campaign trail that I've had with the car. And again, this just kind of summarizes the results of where it's at. Slowly but surely, I'll probably end up going for a 5th star from here. I'm in no big rush to do it. It's been a busy last couple of years. And obviously I've got I've got the 2 unpaid interns, as we call them, at home. So
Better.
they keep me busy. And that's it. Questions?